She is legal counsel for the Alliance Defending Freedom. Please welcome to the program, Christiana Holcomb. Ms. Holcomb, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
This letter that was signed by hundreds of females urging the NCAA not to boycott Idaho because Idaho passed something that a lot of people simply think is fair and commonsensical, and that is to ban transgender athletes from competing against females. How did their names get revealed?
So you're exactly right. Well over 300, not just NCAA, but professional and Olympic female athletes signed a letter to the NCAA saying, do not boycott Idaho for protecting fairness in women's sports. Fair competition is something that every woman should be able to expect in her athletic competitions, and no woman should be forced to compete for second place. But as you mentioned, a left-wing fringe news outlet over the weekend obtained the names of the women who signed on to that letter and flagrantly released that to the public in what appears to be a very clear effort to harass and intimidate those women into silence.
Mm-hmm. Christiane, where are we in the world when you can't sign a letter urging common sense a proposal like this, that you don't ban Idaho because Idaho has felt that having male transgender compete against females is unfair to the female athletes? Where are we in society where you have to sign a letter like that anonymously, Christiana?
I mean, it's incredibly frustrating and really, I think, should be a warning signal to where we are as a society. These women, it should have been up to them individually to decide whether or not to make their participation public. And I really want to underscore this exact thing is the reason you're not seeing more and more women speaking up about male athletes taking place and competing in their female category. You know, it's this type of public harassment, this type of public doxing and intimidation that really has forced a number of women to stay silent when they see a biological male not just competing in, but dominating the female category.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, you are representing two female athletes who are now being dominated by these transgender athletes. Explain to me exactly the community reaction. How are people in general feeling?
Well, as you mentioned, we represent Alliance Defending Freedom has the privilege to represent both Mary Kate and Madison, two collegiate athletes in the state of Idaho, who are stepping in and trying to defend Idaho's new state law, which protects fair competition for women. This ought not to be a controversial law. It's consistent with the purpose and promise of Title IX and simply ensures that only biological girls compete in the girls or the women's category. And I would say that the public response so far has been very encouraging. The young women have received nothing but public support from their families, from their communities, and even from their teammates who themselves may not feel comfortable publicly speaking up.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the line, Christiana, are not just victories. These are prep athletes who are trying to get into college and perhaps getting a scholarship. And so competing and losing against these athletes diminishes their chances of doing that.
That's right. Winning is important, but there are other things, including college scholarships, that are on the line. For example, I represent 4 female athletes in the state of Connecticut, all of whom compete in high school, and all of whom have raced against biological males in the girls' category. These 2 males together have taken 15 women's state championship titles in the last few seasons and have really dominated girls' track and field events in the state of Connecticut. One of my clients, for example, Chelsea Mitchell, personally has lost 4 state championship titles, numerous awards, and public recognition. And you know that has to have an impact on the potential for earning those college scholarships, which are so critical to, making it to the next level of academics and even pursuing a track career in college.
My guest is Christiana Holcomb. She is legal counsel for Alliance Defending Freedom. Christiana, what do these male transgender athletes say? How do they defend dominating women like this when they ran against men and didn't dominate them?
Well, it is really indefensible, isn't it? One of these biological male athletes in the state of Connecticut actually competed as a male for 3 seasons before just a couple weeks later turning around and began competing in the girls category. He was a mid-level athlete as a male, was a state-level champion in the girls category. And again, it boils down to we have women's sports for a reason. They're a separate category for a reason. Biological males have those inherent physiological advantages, including their larger hearts and lung size, their stronger muscles, their denser bones, all of these things that propel them to higher levels of success that female athletes can't reach. That's the reason we need to be protecting the female sex category.
I recall that Martina Navratilova publicly said she did not like the idea of transgender athletes competing, and then when she said it, she later on backed down and apologized.
Well, Martina Navratilova was one of the women who signed on to this letter to the NCAA, requesting that the NCAA not boycott or punish the state of Idaho for protecting women's sports, and asking the NCAA to stand up and to protect the female sex category. I also think it's really exciting that pioneers of Title IX, including Donna DeVerona and Sandra Buca, also signed on to that letter to the NCAA. So it's very interesting that here we are, less than 50 years after Title IX passed, and the pioneers of Title IX are again having to step up to the plate and defend the right of women to compete on a fair and level playing field.
My guest has been Christiana Holcomb. She is legal counsel for Alliance Defending Freedom. Again, in order to contribute, go to adflegal.org/Larry, or you can call 866-435-2252. They depend on your donations to do all of the cases that they're doing. Again, they have a winning rate of over 80%. They played a role in 60 victories at the U.S. Supreme Court, and they give free legal services to individuals whose first freedoms are being attacked. And these cases can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. They need your support in order to continue doing what they do. adflegal.org/Larry, or call 866-435-2252. Christiana, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.